So you know you need shielded Ethernet cable for your project, but you don't know where to start? Here's how you do it right. Hi, I'm Don from True Cable, and today we're going to talk about everything that you need to know in order to properly install your shielded Ethernet cable. Let's get into all the bits, parts, and pieces that you're going to need in order to pull this off. Obviously, first you're going to need shielded Ethernet cable, which there's an example of it right here on the table. You're also going to need the proper tools. We have a True Cable all-in-one RJ45 crimp and termination tool, which is great for cable jacket stripping and also cutting the cable, or if necessary, terminating a shielded 8P8C, otherwise known as RJ45 plug, onto your cable. You will also need shielded keystone jacks. This is going to be at both ends, at the outlet in your wall, as well as mounted into a patch panel. And not just any kind of patch panel, you're going to need a shielded patch panel. So what separates shielded patch panels from regular patch panels, unshielded, so to speak, is the shielded patch panel has a metal frame that makes bonding contact with the keystone. In this case, we have a 12 port and a 24 port, depending on your installation. You may need a bond and ground extension adapter, especially for certain situations where you don't have a rack. And finally, shielded patch cords, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a hint and a preview here. This is a True Cable prototype shielded Cat6A patch cord. Yes, I did actually say that. Finally, we've got them. This is a prototype, we're releasing them soon, so stay tuned on that. One last little bitty piece that I do recommend that you pick up is our copper fabric strips. The copper fabric strips are very helpful for bonding your cable shields to your termination hardware. It can greatly reduce your difficulty with wrapping drain wires around and folding back cable shields and things like that. Let's talk about some tips and tricks to make your installation a lot smoother. First, the TIA standard recommends that you use shielded patch cords, like our new Cat6A shielded patch cord is coming, at both ends of your communications channel. So when you have a shielded keystone, use a shielded patch cord to plug into a switch or a computer. Make certain that you obey the bend radius limitations for your particular cable. Most of the time, and generically speaking, the TIA standard calls for 8 times the jacket outside diameter for a bend radius. Unshielded cable uses 4 times, so the bend radius is twice as big for shielded cable. The reason why you want to make sure you obey that bend radius is so that you don't damage the fragile cable shield, which is found in overall foil shield, for example. Ensure all bonds in your shielded cable system are to the same AC ground. If multiple AC grounds exist, those particular AC grounds must be equalized together in order for you to avoid what is known as a ground loop. Ground loops are a condition that arises when you have multiple points of ground that are unequalized and therefore have unequal potentials. This can result in common mode voltage actually being induced upon your communications cable, which will cause data transmission errors and even equipment damage in extreme cases. This means don't pound in ground rods willy-nilly. Quite frankly, most AC ground systems in most structures are more than sufficient. If you know that you do need to pound in a ground rod for some reason, make certain that that ground rod is bonded to your primary AC system grounding electrode, which means the other ground rod. In certain edge cases, it may be necessary to bond at the head end only. What that means is actually bonding at the patch panel side, but not bonding at the remote side for situations where it's not possible to bond at the remote side and not create yourself a ground loop situation. Make certain that you do not use unshielded hardware to bond your cable. The reason for that is that you want to make certain that your cable shields are functioning properly. And technically speaking, all you actually need to bond is the ESD drain wire, which makes full-length contact with the cable shield in the cable, which means that as long as the ESD drain wire is bonded, then the actual cable shield, by extension, is bonded. Let's discuss the differences between small-scale residential installs and larger-scale commercial installs, and how you would accomplish the proper bond to ground and how things may be a little bit different between those two. Well, for residential and smaller scale, like small business installs that don't have a formal telecommunications bonding infrastructure, in other words, bus bars and things like that mounted on a wall, you may be making use of a 12-port shielded patch panel and our true plug bond and ground extension adapter. The bond wire that is pre-attached to this 12-port panel is replaceable with the connector that is found on our true plug, so that you can plug it directly into an AC outlet and get your bond to ground, and that's perfectly fine to do. In the case of a commercial installation, that typically involves larger patch panels like this shielded 24-port panel. And often in commercial installations, you will be able to make use of the short bond conductor that comes pre-attached to a rack bus bar. And a rack bus bar is a copper bar found in a telecommunications rack or enclosure that would then bond back to your telecommunications bonding infrastructure. However, not every installation looks exactly the same, so you may find yourself in a situation where even on a large scale install, you may still need to use the true plug bond and ground extension adapter as a good backup option. Thank you for watching our video. Please like and subscribe. Happy networking.